Turning to this, Utah Governor Spencer Cox at this morning's press conference. Over to you, Emily.
Right. And as Kaylee said, so this morning in the press conference, making this dramatic, passionate plea to all Americans: stop the political violence. Watch.
I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals.
Governor Cox spoke about what this moment means for our country.
Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even, especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much.
And Governor Cox delivering this message to young Americans.
To my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. At some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us.
Okay. Alicia, a powerful message from the governor.
Absolutely, and I think also the perfect man to deliver it in this moment. Governor Cox is steady. If that's something you can definitely say about him, but he means it from his heart. And this is consistent. In 2023, when he was the chair of the National Governors Association, he launched Disagree Better with Colorado Governor, Democrat Jared Polis, who was the vice chair at the time. And the idea was bipartisan, cross-aisle collaboration, acknowledging that we have our differences, that people do feel isolated, but there is a way to do it better. And that's what he has pushed. The question is, who's listening? Are there people on the other side of the aisle listening to this? We know that there are some who are coming out who are actually fomenting more hate as we speak. That makes it more difficult. I think the message is important. I think it's valid and it's heartfelt. The question is, who is going to listen? And then further, who is going to actually take action in the moment when they're ready to hate and they decide to step back just a second?
Which I guess brings the deterrence into the question, Professor, about is this then the moment where the messaging sent by the federal government of utter rejection of this, will this work to deter any future radicals?
I think we have to, if we're going to improve things in this country, like I think Charlie would want, we have to increase deterrence. We have to increase the punishment for people on both sides who carry out political violence. It's not just on the left. There are people on the far right who have also tried to assassinate people like Nancy Pelosi's husband, for example. And I think the government should pursue them equally hard. But the harder problem is how do we change the culture, not just deter future killers. I mean, we have gone through this many times in American history. This is not a time for hopelessness and despair. the founding. Alexander Hamilton was killed in a duel. Before the Civil War, a member of the House beat a member of the Senate on the floor of Congress almost to death. And then William McKinley was assassinated by an anarchist. And out of all those times, we have repaired society. We have restored virtues in our people. We have to think about not just the negative of punishing people harder, but how do we rebuild our social norms so that this is not acceptable anymore?
And Kayleigh, that was sort of the governor's message, well said, that the young people have this opportunity to change the culture. And it was that young people that Charlie Kirk had such an impression on, that came out in droves to support the idea of liberty and freedom of speech and limited government and positive, peaceful discourse.
Emily, in saying that, you just reminded me of an interview Charlie Kirk did on August 20th, not too long ago, with Lawrence Jones, where he called for a Christian revival in this country. And that is what we need. You know, we've covered on this couch the young people who celebrated Luigi Mangione. We've covered on this couch polling that has shown close to 50% of young people believe violence is okay against certain political figures when necessary. That is a disgusting and pervasive attitude of dehumanization that is taking root. We have to find out why this is taking root. And I know if you asked Charlie, he would say we are spiritually amiss. But the great thing is we are seeing revivals happen on these campuses. For every incident on a campus where we see a call for violence, you can point to another incident of revivals, kids being baptized, kids coming back to what matters, faith and family. That is the only answer to fixing this.
And I firmly believe that Gen Z has been reported as the greatest attendees of church, as Christianity Today reported. You know, my book, Under His Wings, it was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list because people are thirsty for faith and because they finally feel free, arguably, to proclaim their faith. And so it is this climate and culture, Harris, that we find ourselves in now.
Yeah, you know, I've thought a lot about the Discord, the game board, and how other people may have seen him expressing some things. I've thought a lot about the other people in that train car in Charlotte as young Irina Zarutska was curled up in a ball about to die with further harm to her by a killer. And how we don't see in that video people lunge forward like a Daniel Penny. He had a pocket knife. And I know he could do mighty damage, but it wasn't a machine gun. Like, this isn't the 1930s. And I wonder, were there people on that Discord, and we may never know, but I think the investigation will reveal a lot, who may have heard him express this latest, you know, suspected assassin, things that were not right, that should have been called out. We see it on social media. And sometimes even we ourselves will wonder, well, do we flag that? Do we report it? That's a part of society that cannot be coached. We have lost something in our spirit as a whole, not us as individuals. We're strong in our faith here. But we've lost something as a whole in society that is a trigger for good. We've got plenty of trigger for road rage and anger and obviously violence, but the trigger to do the right thing and to say when you see something. I don't know, if 9/11 happened today, would anybody say anything the way that they were trying to say it back then? Like maybe somebody had seen something. I don't know if that works now. But what I do know is that can't be coached. It can only be brought about through spiritual awakening. Coaching that is like coaching height. You can't, you've got to dig in with faith and love and spot it and try and change it that way. And that's what Charlie Kirk was doing.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.